what we need is the baseball card guy, where he's like on QVC
Oh, yeah.
that's making the round, where it's like,
Hard
look,
hustle.
look, I know how smart you are. That's why you should be buying these
You
cards.
want to get chicks? I want to get chicks. Art hustle gets you chicks.
Some girl's gonna come over, look at your card collection.
Yeah, look at that. There's a signed Kozak card in every.
That's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
Hey everybody, it's Dov from DKE Toys, and we are here with Simeon Lipman on DKE Toys TV. We are joined by Janky and Scott Cherry, Barbarian Rage. Welcome.
How's it going?
How's everybody?
Very good, thank you.
That good. Oh wow, you took too long to respond. Anyway,
and then we all responded at one time, so it's...
yeah. So Simeon, for the people who don't know who you are, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
My name's Simeon Lipman. I'm a pop culture appraiser. I'm a consultant, pop culture memorabilia. So I've been basically, I've been doing this my whole life, collected cards and autographs and whatever, and went to college for admiralty law, and got bored out of my mind, and was like, maybe art's good, so maybe I should take an art history class. I did, and then an opportunity to do an internship at Christie's turned up, and I went in, and I kind of made the pitch that I should be in the contemporary art department or something like that. And they're like, well, what's your background? And I basically said, I've written for, magazines about baseball cards and things like that. And they're like, well, we just started a new department called the collectibles department. And you could be an intern there. I said, great. And I walked in there, and it turns out what they had done, because this was such a new field as far as the auction world is concerned, is they had just asked around. So like, the guy in IT liked dolls. So now he was the doll expert. This is the early 90s, and like there was no clue. So I walked in there with this, wealth of knowledge and experience. And very quickly I ended up, kind of taking over the department. And we did lots of really cool auctions and things like that. And then, and as time went by, I ended up at different auction houses and kind of did all this stuff, and then kind of walked back into Christie's in the 2000s, in like 2007, and that's where I met Dov, and that's kind of how I got involved in this scene.
But you do so much more. You're leaving out so much. Like
that's a lot, though.
I was gonna say.
I mean, you're like you were a regular on Antiques Roadshow.
Yes, I've been on Antiques Roadshow since 1997. I still do it.
And then as we'll get into soon, we'll talk about like the art hustle. And then right now, you and Greg from Mishka are G.A.S. gas trading cards, which is Greg and Simeon, correct?
Yes.
That's
gas. Very clever. Very clever.
And
SAG didn't work. So
there might be an organization that's got that, or I can't put my finger on it, but
wow. So no, I've been very fortunate because I got to meet you, Dov, and all the great people in the community, and was able to do some really amazing projects. And I love trading cards. It's like my thing, has been my whole life. So being able to manufacture cards is great.
When we met, like, I didn't know you as a card person. With our shared, passion was the Sucklord. Yes. And you were probably, one of the earliest Sucklord collectors, out there. So we have the shared love of psychedelic. We're both collecting that stuff. You're interacting a lot more with because you're living in New York. And then one day you come to me and I don't know, did you stay at our house or I just remember you sitting in the kitchen and you brought this board, and it's almost like you were like pitching me. And I was like, why is Simeon pitching me like I'm in like a stranger in a meeting? Had this board.
Shark Tank.
It was very Shark Tank in your kitchen. It was.
And he's like, dude, I want to do a trading card set.
All right, let me tell you what happened.
You want to tell the story better?
I'll tell
Let
you
him
what
pitch.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll be Mr. Wonderful.
So okay. I got involved in the scene. I started doing auctions at Christie's with a lot of this material, with a lot of these artists. I was definitely into work, obviously, and we met a guy who was also a collector of Tom Lipman of Sidekick,
right?
And Tom had said that he could make. He's like a mad genius, the guy, and he said he could replicate the wax pack, the wrapper that we all grew up with, which is non-existent technology today. It's forgotten tech.
Right. Yeah.
So he had figured out a way to do this, and they did the first suck pack set, which is like an incredible set. It's basically a biographical set of his life. And they did it with the wax packs and with gum and with the old cardboard, and it was just wonderful. And
can we talk about, like, he did the wax pack so well, and Topps had completely lost that technology, that Topps actually hired him to make wacky packages wrappers for all their limited edition releases.
Yeah,
that's right.
Kind of crazy. There's other people who do wax packs now who've like sort of figured it out. Tom won't tell me how he does it. He's like,
no, that's proprietary. That's his thing. That's his thing.
That's proprietary.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's still doing market and stuff, right? He's like,
he still does. Yeah.
Man. Nuts.
So basically one day I was doing laundry in the city, and in the city you got to do laundry at the laundromat if you have, if you're like a regular person. So I'm a regular person, so I'm at the laundromat. I'm standing there, and I got hit by like a lightning bolt. I just was thinking about it. I was like, look, all these artists, they all do interesting work. They're all interesting personalities too. Like all these people are just like Kozik or Buff Monster, or all these people are just really interesting. Ron English, this whole scene was so fascinating to me, and I felt like it was really burgeoning, almost like I'm a student of art history, right? So I know about like the pop art movement and going all the way back, even to the Impressionists and whatever, the Surrealists. All these guys, they had these like packs, these interesting people, and some of them became really famous, and some of them fell off and didn't become famous. And all this stuff reminded me of my baseball card collecting, right? So I'm like, we should do like this massive set with all the artists and all their art, and and get them to sign cards and get them to do art. And so I did this like board. I came up with I wanted to make it really simple, so it was like a simple card. At that time they were doing real shiny stuff, and of course I've gotten into that now, but back then I really wanted to get back to the basics. So I kind of designed a card, and then I presented it to Dov, because without Dov I didn't think I'd be able to get any of these artists to do it. And I'm persuasive, but I'm not that persuasive, and so that's why I presented you.
If I may interject real quick, I think that may be where you're wrong, is if you would have just gone to the artist and say, hey, I'm going to feed your ego a little bit, I'm going to make a baseball card of you, I guarantee every single artist would have been like, yeah.
But I wanted to really look.
I'm sorry. So Scott, you're saying I don't matter.
I think
that's what that sounded like.
That.
Yeah. All right. Excuse me. I have to go. I'm going to go cry in the corner for a minute. I'll be back in a few minutes.
We'll be back. Scott may not be on the show anymore, but
okay.
But
you matter
Scott,
to me,
Scott, I actually agree with you. It's
Yeah.
it is the artists do like that kind of thing, and if they're
Yeah.
smart enough to like want to do stuff like that and get promotion, be a part of something, but there are a lot of artists that I think two things are leery of people who like send us an image and you have to sign a bunch of cards and we need you to draw a few cards, and like
Yeah.
they have to
No,
know that it's gonna
you're right.
be kind of
Yeah.
cool, and then once they've committed, now it's hard to get the artist to actually turn their shit in.
To do
that's a whole other.
See, that's where you come in. That's where
that's where the calls came in, where once we got everyone to agree and they submitted their images and all the info, and then Simeon and his wife, did it right. Your wife did actually did all the design.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Right. So you guys had to do all that. Then we had to get it printed. And then you had to send everything out to people to get them to actually, right? Because how many cards were in the first set? 110? Something like that. Over 100, right?
Yeah, well over 100, like 180 cards or something like that.
162 base cards. So everyone had 2 cards. So there's like 80 artists.
Right.
Right. And you couldn't have one artist not turn in their autographs.
No. Everybody had to do
that.
That
Would
was the
fucking ruin it. Imagine if one
Yeah.
person just said no. Right. And as it is, when it came to the art cards, there was one artist who just laid them all out and did one big thing. And then some cards only had like a little slice of red on it. And then it was like, oh, some didn't follow directions and they signed on the back where the stamp was supposed to go. And I was like, Simeon, send him a new batch of cards. He's like, no. And it's like, and some people didn't understand the assignment. They're like, what, I have to draw stuff? What the fuck? It's like,
dealing with 100 artists at a time, and the only other person who understands this is Dov, right?
Yeah. So fuck you, Scott. I matter.
No, I've said this time and time again.
Now, Scott.
I said to Dov, I go, all these fucking artists, man. I go, how do you do it? And Dov looks down. He goes, hard.
Dude, it's brutal.
Yeah.
160 something cards is amazing, but then you guys did it 3 fucking times. Like,
well, that was pure insanity, and that had a lot to do with the fact that Christie's decided to get rid of my department, so suddenly I didn't have a job to go to, and
because you went out shopping all day. Dipped out of the office, went toy shopping for the
7-hour lunch break.
That might have something to do with it, but like I had the time. We had the time to do it, and that was important.
Yeah, the time. All right, so let me just show off what a Series 1 set looks like. So these originally came in packs. And those sold out years ago, but then we followed up the packs, the release of the packs where you could get autographs, and I think how many you got? A couple sketch cards. You can get like original pieces of like Ron English art and Shag art and Kozik art, like in the packs, and then there were like subsets and stuff like that. So then often what baseball card manufacturers do is people who just care about the base set and not all the extras, they will give you a factory set, and that's just one complete set, cards 1 through 162. And then there were a couple extra special cards that are only available in the factory set.
So you have to buy it twice if you bought the packs.
That's true.
That's how we get you.
If you wanted the Sucklord's alter ego sketch card, Vectar, everyone gets one handmade, hand-adorned sketch card. And then in series, as a preview of Series 2, there was a subset of Frank Kozik silk screened cards. And this was a card. It says Art Hustle Frank Kozik limited edition silkscreen card special signature edition. Duh, I wish I would have read this earlier. Produced exclusively for Art Hustle Series 2. So this was a preview. This card is only available, signed by Frank Kozik, who unfortunately is no longer with us. But every Series 1 factory set has a signed exclusive Kozik card, which is sort of mind-blowing. So
this is like Kozik's rookie card too. So like in the factory set, you get like this, which is his rookie card. And this is what's great now. So now we're, 15 years almost past the fact, right? PSA, which is like the biggest grading company in the world, they grade, the Honus Wagner cards and the Mickey Mantles and all that. They will grade Art Hustle cards, which is it was a 10-year, project to get them to do it, but they will do it. They, which is great. And so like, you can get your Buff Monster rookie, as they call it, slabbed. So that's something to think about. Also, CGC and Beckett, they'll all do it. They'll basically all the grading companies will grade it, which is really exciting. So that's
I didn't realize you had to get those approved by the graders in order to grade different series. I kind of thought you could send like anything in and they would grade it. That's awesome.
No. They're very, very.
So if you're doing a release from Fanatics or Panini or whatever, those companies will submit a checklist.
Got it.
And they will add that, and then if it's a special card, they have to do research and make sure, because they don't ever want to slab something that is not. And in my experience, I'm dealing with this now, they're very conservative and they're very slow. Like you said, it took 14 years for them to accept Art Hustle. When I first started submitting stuff, I thought they would do anything. So I sent in Melty Misfits and Mark Pingator cards and all that kind of stuff. And then they were like, not approved, not approved, not approved. I was like, what? What do you mean? These are real things. And like, they were not into like the niche. And even when you guys first released the gas cards, they were sort of poo-pooing them because you were, drawing, doing stuff that was current in the news, not approved by, a political, you don't need approval from a, political.
Right.
person.
Well, that's what we were able to kind of eventually convince them, and they understood it because they were doing it for other card companies.
Right.
So, but
once they saw the cards were selling for thousands of dollars, then they're like, oh, we're going to look bad if we don't grade these.
Yeah. Right.
Man, so I can't just send in my Barbarian Rage set and get it graded. I'm very bummed.
No. We'll have to wait 14 years.
Oh, great. Anyone who has Barbarian Rage sets they want graded, send them to me. I will slap and grade them.
Anyway, so there's very few Series 1 sets. These are old. I think we have less than 50. But what just came out is the Series 2 and Series 3 after years of the uncut sheets sitting at Sidekick. I finally paid for a pallet to ship from Vermont to us, and he packed up the Series 2 and 3, which are available individually on the site, or if you want all three, you can only get Series 1. You can only get Series 1 if you buy 2 and 3 with it. It's $100 for the 3, which I think is a steal.
That's a great deal.
Yeah.
God damn.
Especially, man, with that Kozik piece in there and the Vectar, that's nuts for $100.
That's great.
And the structure of the set is there's a profile card of each
artist,
each one, and then there's an art card of a piece of art that they submitted, and that's sort of the format. So you get like your Ron English, the portrait card, and then you get a piece of art.
I love the designs on those too. They're so classic and simple, like perfect for the set. Like, I'm kind of nuts over this set. I think they're great.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, my wife gets a lot of the credit too. I mean, she worked really hard, and we had a little kid at the time, and he, it wasn't the easiest thing to do, but it was done with love. There was a lot of love cooked into this set, and all three of them really. But for people who are on the fence or whatever, this card in Series 1, Ram LZ, if you don't know, he was one of the original graffiti guys, original hip hop guys. He was friends with Basquiat. A lot of people think he was better than Basquiat, and that Basquiat was trying to copy him. He died in 2010. Luckily, fortunately for us, this was one of the last projects he was involved in, and we were able to kind of immortalize him on cardboard here. And this card alone has sold for over $100 on eBay. So that comes in the factory set. So just so you know, there's value there as well, and it's just an awesome card.
And if someone has an autograph card or an original art card from back
Jesus. Then, I mean, like, well, Ramsey's work goes for millions of dollars now. So I mean, he's like one of the Jeffrey Deitch represents his estate.
Well, that makes sense, because when Jeffrey Deitch was running Mocha out here, Roger Gassman curated that the what was it called? Was the
Streets?
Beyond the was it Beyond the Streets?
Beyond the Streets.
And that was like the most well attended show at Mocha like ever. In downtown LA. Wow. And I remember walking into that room of the Ramel Z stuff just hanging from the ceiling and all over, and it was like, was it Dayglow? Were there like black lights? I don't know. Everything was just, I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like
yeah, he was unique. Amazing work. There's very little of his work out there, and
well, that room was full of it. There were like hundreds of pieces. So like,
right, yeah, he never sold any. Wow. He was very, and in fact, I was, one of the things we used to talk about was, I was like, we got to put some of your stuff on the market here. This stuff's amazing. He was just an incredible artist, but he felt very close, like these were his family members, these creations he made, and he wasn't about to sell them for anything. He didn't care about money. That wasn't his thing. And it was really sad. We felt really bad because he was really nice. And unfortunately, yeah, he passed away very young. He was in his 40s. But anyway, he's in the set, and he's like a true legend. So again, when we were thinking about this, there were guys who would, come up here, and there are people who quit, and that's the beauty of the set.
Dov and I were talking about that right when I got the set from you, however many months ago. How many, when you go through the set, how many guys are still active and how many are not? And the same thing, how many have passed away? Like, people are like, oh, my God, you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a card set that you can look at that does exactly that, like shows the history of a scene, including the failures and the people who burned out, and it's kind of incredible foresight you guys had to put that together when you did.
Well, you know what it was? It was when I told you I was at the laundromat. One of the thoughts that were going through my head, and I was just waiting. I was bored because the clothes were drying, and I was standing there. I'm like, how cool would it have been if somebody did a set like this in 1980 or 81 and had Keith Haring and Basquiat, and everyone else in the scene, and how amazing and how valuable would that be if Basquiat had signed cards in 1981, and that was the whole thought process behind it. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool.
I'm kind of amazed here looking at like series 3. I mean, obviously I'm going to show the David Healy card because of all our resin people who are watching the show. Yeah. But like there's Tristan Eaton,
and they all did original art. They all did original art.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. Here's like Gary Baseman, and who else? Gary Taxali, Glenn Barr, Dave Cooper.
You mentioned Gassman. Gassman is in series 3 himself. Right. And he also recommended a bunch of graffiti guys.
I couldn't like interface with any of these graffiti guys, so we had him sort of curate like a little subset just to get. That was funny talking to him, because I always want to do a follow up to the Vader project, and I said I want to do Stormtrooper helmet with graffiti artists, and he was like, "No, dude." He's like, "You'll send out your 100 helmets, you'll only get back like 40 or 50. The other ones will be like, you agreed to do this," and like, what, who, and then like they won't want to be in the same show with each other and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, in my mind, I thought like this was a brilliant idea, but he was like, "Yeah, that's not going to fly." But it was fun to get.
It works in theory.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely fun to get a nice selection of guys in the set. And we got like Ein, and I mean, there was just like some really
Ein, who I tracked down all over the fucking world to get him to do his goddamn fucking cards. And I was relentless because Ein, look, I mean, he's a big time artist and I get it. He had agreed to be part of the set. And I was thrilled.
I'm sorry, did you get Ein to do it or did Roger?
I did.
You did, okay.
I reached out to Ein and he agreed to do it. And we sent him his cards, and he was one of the last, nothing was coming back. And I kept stalking him through Instagram, like, oh, you're in San Francisco now. Okay. So I'll reach out. So finally I was able to find him at his girlfriend's place. And I said, look, man, please. I said, everyone else has done it.
Like, we can't release the product. You can't pack up the packs.
And you know what? To his credit, he fucking killed it. Once he sat down and did it, how cool are those Ein cards? They're like amazing. So, I mean, he did original stenciled art on all the art cards. So there's original Ein art, stenciled Ein art out there, on cards, which is just amazing.
Just insane. Junko Mizuno, Chip Kid, like one of my favorites. And he just didn't get like the idea, like where are the the art cards? He's like, you didn't tell me. I'm like, obviously he didn't read. And then
I figured out what his original art card is.
He just wrote like bald cunt on each card, right?
No, that was Cupco.
No, are you serious?
No, listen to what Chip Kid did, right? So for years, all Chip Kid's original art cards come back and it says wrong sperm fiasco. All of them. He wrote it down. Wrong sperm fiasco. So for years, I'm like, what the fuck's he talking about? So one day I just happened to type it into Google and it comes back. It was the cover of the New York Post. One day was wrong sperm fiasco. It was about a kid who had been born, the sperm had been mixed up in the, and he must have just had that on his desk and he just wrote it, which is so cool.
That's unbelievable. And then just the last little story I'm going to tell here is there's the Johnny Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And so Johnny Ryan, his second card that he submitted when Tom went to go print them. So Tom has printing presses, but when it comes to the huge sheets at the time, he would sub that out to someone if they were doing lots of, I don't know, that have the bigger kind of machine. And I don't know if they were looking at each card or why they would, but Johnny Ryan's art card is called 6911. And I don't know if I should show it right now. I guess you
showed it on the show before. You may as well do it again.
Did I? Yeah. It's basically an airplane 69ing the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And this company.
That's a piece of art, Dov.
They refused to print it, and Tom had to go to another printer. So, Simeon, does that mean there's uncut sheets of just this card?
No, I don't remember exactly what went down, but it ended up being printed, or maybe the person who was printing couldn't be there that day. It was something like that.
Something happened.
But yes, it got printed. It's funny because I asked Johnny recently. I'm like, what were you thinking? He's like, I couldn't believe. This is what he said. He's like, I couldn't believe you guys printed it. But that was part of the appeal of the set. Was we told the artists they could do whatever they wanted as long as there's no like bodily fluids on the card.
Which you do need to stipulate. I mean, that is.
So how many years later? So 2001. This was okay. So it's 11 years later. So you can't say like too soon.
No. It was. That's Johnny.
On the back of the card, it says like what the title is, and the title is called "Never Forget."
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh man.
I mean, it's not that unsurprising with it being Johnny. I mean, his business cards have words that I can't say, so.
Insane. Insane. Anyway, so for anyone
Johnny
watching,
Toys.
DKtoys.com, $100, you can get
That's
all
the
three
best deal.
series. And yeah.
The deal
Anyway,
of the century.
So tell us, how do you get onto Antiques Roadshow?
So, all right. I was at Christie's. I was young. And basically, the Antiques Roadshow, the first season it happened, this is in 96, and it became like this phenomenon.
So for people who don't know, Antiques Roadshow is a show on PBS, right? And it would travel from town to town, and people would show up with their collectibles to get a free appraisal, right? But they wait in line for hours, right?
Yeah.
And then they would pick out certain people, and then the auction houses would pay for you guys, the experts, to be there, and then they would shoot you, these people saying like, hey, I have this thing, my grandmother had this thing, and then they'll say, hey, by the way, this thing's worth $1 million, and was like, and people just sort of like lose their shit.
Or it's not worth $1 million.
Right. Which is just as good television.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it's devastating. It's like, I'm sorry, like this would have been worth $1 million, but you decided to strip, George Washington's desk, and it doesn't have the original patina. It's worth $5,000. It's like,
I get the fuck out of here.
And then just one more last thing, because when were you in Anaheim? You did one show locally here, and Sarah, you invited Sarah and I down, and like these people are standing in line, and sometimes they are bringing this huge like thing that's 10 feet tall, and they're standing in line pushing their thing, trying to get their free appraisal, and it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's still nuts. They do it. They used to do it inside a convention hall. Now they do it outside, kind of like the British one, which has been around forever. That show, yeah. I mean, I've been doing that show since '97. I got on in the second season, and it's been really fun. You have camaraderie. You meet all these other experts in all these other fields, and they're all eccentric, and it's really fun. It's interesting, and you never know what's going to
story. Yeah, what's a good story of someone?
I'll tell you the craziest thing that I ever saw that never ever got on camera, but we were in Orlando, and I sat next to. So I do the pop culture and the sports. I sat next to a guy, little English guy, who was doing scientific instruments. And we sat next to each other at the table. And I kind of saw from afar a woman. She had like a wagon, like a radio flyer wagon. And on it looked to be a space capsule. And I watched this thing approach. As Dov said, these people are schlepping stuff, and there's thousands of people online. So I noticed this, and eventually it makes its way over the table, and I'm standing there next to this guy, and she's telling him that basically this is indeed a space capsule that her next door neighbor, who worked at Cape Canaveral, had in his garage, and she was a school teacher. And so when he decided to move to Arizona, he said, do you want this? And she said, sure, I'll put it in the classroom. So meanwhile, I'm watching this it's kind of like a miniature space capsule. So she opens the door to the capsule, and there's a little chair, and there's a little helmet, and it's the actual capsule that they sent the monkey up in.
No shit.
It's the actual one.
Whoa.
And it had the little helmet, the little helmet, the little chair.
Why didn't they air this?
I'll tell you. So meanwhile, it has all the.
There was a little skeleton in there.
No, there was no skeleton. But it had all like the canisters and all the shit. It was all there. So what happened was, apparently you're not allowed to have that.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
And this man who took it, you're not allowed to have the monkey capsule. You're definitely not allowed to give it to someone, and that's definitely not supposed to be in a classroom in like an elementary school.
That's like those people that have moon rocks, and they say like, I have this thing that was on the moon, and then the U.S. government's like, we paid for that trip there. That property belongs to us. And so it's technically illegal to own a moon rock because the only person that could have gotten a moon rock was an astronaut that they spent $1 billion to get it there.
Right.
Like
yeah, they'll go after stuff like that. So they never air. We never even filmed it. But I'll never forget. And this just shows you, people have different opinions of value of things, right? So the woman says to him, well, okay, I guess I'll take it back home. We'll figure out what to do with it, but what's it worth? And this English guy goes, I don't know, about $1,000 or so.
$1,000.
I'm looking at this guy like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this thing's like priceless.
Smithsonian worthy.
But it just shows you that was the last show, by the way, that guy did. I think his prices might have been off on a lot of stuff. But
I'll give you $50 for it.
So when you're on the road show, like, so if Christie's or another auction house is paying for you to be there, then can you hit these people up to consign the stuff? Like, how does that work?
So no, you're not allowed to do that, which is good because people have done that and they get they get kicked off. No, but basically the people are allowed to take down your information. They're allowed to take your business card. You're not allowed to give them your business card. So they have like rules and stuff. But yeah, certainly
you can't have your business cards on the table. So
there's no, not on the table, but there's like a table on the way out that they're allowed to go pick up your
it's like a bulletin board in an IHOP that just has all the business cards pinned to it.
Or it might just happen to fall out of your pocket.
Someone walks in with like a T206 Hannes Wagner, and you can't say, "Here's my card. We'll get you $1 million for this."
You can, and then you'll get. That'll be the last show you do.
And that's happened to a lot of people.
Might be worth it. Yeah, it might be worth it.
Yeah, it might be worth it. Maybe it has been for certain people. I don't know. But a T206 Wagner did, in fact, walk into the show. The guy he knew exactly what he had. And remember, this is entertainment, this show. So if the person knows what they have and are an expert on this stuff, the producers can sniff that out pretty easily and don't particularly want to put it on air because they want a genuine reaction, whether it's good or bad. They want a genuine reaction, and they're real experts at figuring if the people kind of know what they're talking about or don't.
It's pretty amazing. I worked in reality. You wouldn't know this, but I worked in reality television for 19 years as an editor. Okay. And so there are certain shows that you look at, or certain things you look at culturally that change the landscape of entertainment. And one of those shows is Antiques Roadshow. Because it's this quaint little show on PBS with the old timey music, and every college dorm I knew in college, you're sitting there watching it, drinking beer and cheering at Antiques Roadshow. And now there's 8,000 value-based shows with Storage Wars or, Pawn Stars. All of that comes from this one teeny tiny little PBS show. Like, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And the difference between the Road Show and all those other shows, all those other shows are scripted. All those other shows are produced, or have been, things have already been researched. And look, you can tell when you watch Pawn Stars, and the guy's like, "Oh, well, let me bring in my friend, who's just happens to be here."
Right.
So, or when they're doing it, like the camera's behind the person in their house. Like, how did that happen?
Right.
So, no, the Road Show, nobody knows what's coming in. So it's very much true reality television.
But I've talked to some people who went to Vegas and went to the Pawn Stars place and are just horribly disappointed because they bring this
like that.
It's just to buy junk, and then they would show them something and they don't know what anything is worth, and they're like, "You tell me, how much do you think it's?" It's like, it's so weird.
Yeah,
like maybe I'm sure they make more money on T-shirts, but there's like a line to get in. And I don't know.
It's an entertainment. I like the show. I watch it. I did watch it, but
it is on the History Channel though. Like, the bent is towards history, so like they'll have stuff on it, and then the goal is to have the person talk about like the history of the book, right? Because the History Channel wants.
But isn't Ancient Aliens on History Channel?
That's what I was about to say. You know what's on the
Channel.
Learning Channel these days?
The Learning Channel. Yeah.
It's
90
how
Day Fiance.
All right, so
I'm learning
Simeon,
a lot.
before we get on to just talking about gas cards, which is your current project, the thing that I have seen you do for as long as I've known you is you are always, I would say, ahead of the curve. Like you are collecting things when nobody cares about them. Right? You are like, and if you talk about like the nature of ephemera, what ephemera is technically is something that is worthless, right? It's like you think about like a ticket stub, like so you've sort of extrapolated like the stuff that I see you posting on Instagram. It's like you've went and got all these ticket stubs from like, here's, I don't know, Burt Reynolds' first Broadway performance. Like this is his rookie card. Like, so it's like this baseball mentality and the comic books of a first appearance and the rookie card for the sports figure, you know, for the actor, the way you called like the Frank Kozik card, like his rookie card. Well, that's sort of what's happening right now. So it's like you're always looking at where the market is headed and after these things that are not worth anything really when you're buying them, and then you're just sort of like stockpile them and then they become popular and then you're off onto the next thing. Like once it's popular, once everyone's collecting Sucklord, you're like moved on. So the fascinating thing is when you were always talking to me about the tech giants, and none of the tech giants had cards really until G.A.S made most of them. But so you started collecting magazine covers. And then getting those graded. Thinking like this is on, you know, whatever, what's like a Steve Jobs, like what's his first appearance on a magazine?
Okay, so I mean, again, it's that same mentality. It's the, you know, I grew up as you did, same time period. Rookie cards were the big thing, you know. So who's relevant? Why, you know, who is relevant to the culture? You know, well, Steve Jobs certainly is relevant to the culture. Everybody in the world knows him. Everybody in the world basically uses, you know, stuff he helped promote and produce. So, you know, what's the earliest possible thing that was out there that would have been ephemeral, thrown out, you know, and that's something valuable, right? Everybody understands that these days, you know. So I started delving pretty deep as to what was the very first thing he appeared on. Now, there's no cards, right? But what's very ephemeral are magazines. And he appeared on hundreds and hundreds of magazines over the years. Obviously, it's very photogenic. But there had to be one that started it, right? So a lot of people think, oh, it was Time Magazine, or it was, no, it wasn't. It was Inc., INC, which was the magazine for small business. And in 1981, in October of 81, they put him on the cover, and he looks like Ashton Kutcher. I mean, he's got a little beard, and I found out that, and this magazine is impossible to find because nobody held on to it, right? People hold on to Life magazine, to Time magazine, to Sports Illustrated, but they don't hold on to Inc. You know, that was you know, in the toilet and then in the garbage, and that was it. And you know, over the course of the next, you know, 10 years, I searched, and finally I found one. I'd love to show it. I don't have it here with me, but I was able to find a nice one and get it graded. And it turns out it's the only one graded. It's the only one.
And that's what's crazy is now, you know, CGC was grading comic books, and then they started grading magazines, right? And PSA was grading baseball cards, and then they started grading ticket stubs.
Yeah.
Right. And it's for sporting events. And now they're grading stuff for like concerts and Broadway plays and stuff like that. And that's sort of, your feed on Instagram is just fascinating to me because, like, to me, it's like the foresight to go, like, did you just buy like a huge collection of tickets? How did you determine like this is Kirk Douglas's first appearance on Broadway?
No, I mean, the beautiful thing about the internet, right, is that, you know, in the old days, you'd have to, and I used to do this pre-internet is I'd go to the library and I'd spend all day researching shit, right? Now you can find stuff so easily. There's so many databases on the internet. So one of the things I was thinking about was, look, debut tickets for baseball players started going nuts a few years ago. And I love stuff like that, right? But I'm thinking, who else has interesting debut tickets? Well, actors do. And actors are really relevant. You know, they're important and people care. So I'm like, wait a second, Marlon Brando. I mean, who's the best? Who's the Babe Ruth of acting? Well, Marlon Brando's up there, right? So I'm like, okay, well, he started out on Broadway. There had to be a day. There had to be one performance that was his first. So I delve into him and I find out he was in this show called I Remember Mama in 1944. October 15th was the very first night of the show. And that's when I start looking. And of course, I was able to find a ticket to the opening night, October 15th, 1944. And it's his very first appearance. He's like 20. And it's his very first appearance on Broadway, and it's his debut ticket. So there's a lot of opportunity if you just think about this stuff today, where you can research stuff, and then at least you have the knowledge to go, you know, try and find it.
This is some Sigma 6 Illuminati level collecting shit here. Like,
dude, I'm telling you. Okay, so Elon Musk's rookie card is considered a mail order wacky package that came mostly with Garbage Pail Kids in, what year was that? 2017. Well, it started with the Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? Those sets, and they were just made to order. They were $10 a card, and I collected all of them. It was the hugest pain in the ass, but I pulled a Simeon because I knew that, like, the very first cards were gonna, with this, like, they would print the numbers. They made 2,000 of this card, and I just kept going, as painful as it was to go on and buy a card for $10 over and over and over again, until they got to the very end of the set, where sometimes there's 100 cards and 66 cards, and then they hired some artist that was terrible, and then the numbers just went way down. But those are like the rarest cards, right? And they would, because they were offering stuff today and delivering whenever, they would give the artist 48 hours to create. Something was in the news and they're making the card the next day, and they worked out some print on demand that was really rather quick. And so people were, and Topps is still doing that today with, what's that set that they do?
Oh yeah, Topps Now.
Topps Now. And then, like, the groundskeeper goes and, like, scoops it up, and then they make a card of the groundskeeper, and then they get the groundskeeper to autograph it. And because it's now and in people's minds, and because they can produce it so quickly, it's like someone throws a no-hitter, boom, no-hitter card available that day or the next day, and then they sell 1,000 of them. But these cards got progressively worse, and there was the Elon Musk card, and then I just started, I don't know who told me, maybe you told me about it or someone else, and it was like selling on eBay for like $1,000.
I mean, look, I'll show you some other stuff. I brought some other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Some more show and tell.
Okay. This was my next question, was I want to see the personal collection here.
Okay. Well, again, I don't have too much stuff with me, but I did bring a few things. So, all right. Now, type 1 photographs, original photography is really, really valuable, right? So, like a picture of Babe Ruth from 1915 in his rookie year with the Red Sox is worth $700,000. You know what I mean? It's like, because there's only a handful, whatever. I actually helped make that market because I did an auction in 1996 of Baseball Magazine's photographic archives, and the stuff went bananas. And at that point, people were like, wait a second, this is really valuable. This is important. So again,
let's just say that it's hard for the layman to know. Can you tell people what a type 1 photograph is?
Yeah, so someone came up with this kind of way to grade photographs by their vintage, and basically a type 1 means that it was made within a year of the image. So if the photographer saw Babe Ruth on the field in 1915, took the picture and printed it the next week, it's a type 1 photograph. If somebody took that negative 10 years later for a profile on Babe Ruth and printed it, that's a type 2 or a type 3. It depends on how far out. And so the type 1s are the one that are very valuable.
So not only can they tell what type they are, they can also tell if they're dupes, right?
That's correct.
Because quite often people would copy negatives or rephotograph photographs, and then the contrast changes. And apparently they're just these experts, which when you did the auction, people had to sort of take people's word for it because you didn't know from the naked eye. Like you had provenance, like this came from this magazine.
Yeah.
But now that there's a company and, a type 1 Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back photo could be $500 or $1,000.
And that's just the beginning.
Dude, I
have something to show. That dovetails into that. No pun intended. Maybe a little bit.
Somebody watched our show.
I was gonna say.
Rookie, 1966. This is Harrison Ford's 1966 film debut, Columbia Pictures. This is his original publicity photograph as a young star. He has a little thing on the back that says, "Third generation Harrison J. Ford under exclusive contract to Columbia Pictures through the studio's new talent program. Young Ford makes his motion picture debut in Eli Koch."
Wow.
And there
is that a type 1?
That's an absolute type 1. I don't know if you can see it, but wow. By the way, I have a Shankara stone here.
What is
Is that a type 1 Chinkaro stone? Is that
yes? So this is a type 1 now. So for many years I searched anything Harrison Ford because he's interesting to me. He's interesting to anyone of our generation, right? He's like the GOAT, right? So this is his earliest possible photograph as an actor that you could ever get, and this is the only one. This is the only one that's been graded. So, wow. And again, what's it worth? Who knows? Whatever somebody's going to pay, So like here. So I ended up having to buck up for this. Okay. But this was in an auction and I just thought it was an amazing piece. So I had to get it. So
now for the record, everyone, Simeon likes to buy stuff when they're worthless and then wait till they're worth $10,000. So the fact that he actually, went to an auction and like bid, like
something
that's...
We know we're about to see some next level shit here. Okay.
This is next level shit, right? And so this came up in Golden. So a kind of a well-publicized auction. But all right, so this is from 1981 from the Miami Herald. Okay, it's a photograph of the Palmetto Senior High Science Fair winner. Okay, who just happens to be Jeff Bezos.
Holy shit.
No way.
Wow.
So this is from 1981. It's got all the stamps and everything. And the guy went to Palmetto High School and met with, so what the caption says is, Jeff Bezos, 17, demonstrates his ultrasonics experiment. He is the blue ribbon winner at the science exhibit. So here it is. So, so that's like that's the kind of shit I love,
Like when I was collecting baseball cards, like it started to creep in like high school and college yearbooks. And especially if you had like a Michael Jordan yearbook, like from, high school, and like, especially if he was in the section with the basketball team, and that stuff started to go for thousands of dollars. But this, wow, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. What is your apex piece in your collection? What is the thing that the house is on fire, you can grab one thing? What is the thing in your collection that you are most attached to?
I gotta say, my ticket collection, which I have in a binder, it's really special, man. I really worked hard putting it together, and it's an impossible thing for anyone to ever duplicate, and it's got all the great I'm a big movie fan, right? I love actors and actresses, and so to have all these little pieces of paper that were in the room that it happened, like when Marlon first took the stage, or Al Pacino or any of these guys, and so I that's probably my favorite collection at the moment. But I've got a million collections, but that's probably my favorite.
This is what I love about collecting, though. Like, people collect for money and investment, and all of that's great. But hearing you talk about the piece of paper in the room, that's like, fuck yeah, man! I want to go collect awesome things that are, connected to my history and the things I love. And
yeah, man, it's time travel. It's the closest thing to time travel because that object was there, and it's like you're touching the history. You can actually touch it, which I think is really cool.
Doesn't like Bill Gates or someone collect like space mail? It's like letters and stuff that have gone up into space and like come down.
He's a crazy collector, Gates is
really
a crazy collector. So is Bezos. Bezos is a crazy collector. Jobs didn't want anything.
Interesting. So anytime Simeon comes to town, he is usually coming to town on behalf of an auction house, and then telling me stories about going to these people who can't be named, and just the crazy shit and sometimes it turns into like an auction or whatever, and he's got to appraise stuff. If you look at Carrie Fisher's mom, like Debbie Reynolds, after she died, she had a warehouse, and I think did Profiles in History do that auction? It was 2 catalogs like that thick with like, here is the chariot from Spartacus, and here is like she just whatever it was, like she had thousands.
She was brilliant. I was there. I was with her, and she was awesome. She was so smart, and this is what she did, right? So she's Debbie Reynolds, so she's one of the top actresses at the time at MGM. So what she would do was go to the prop masters. She was a huge movie fan, right? She'd go to the prop masters and ask them, like, "Oh, do you still have Dorothy's dress?" And they'd be like, "Yeah." "You want it?" "Yeah." She'd take it. Wow. This is how this collection was built. She just knew everybody on the lot and would just bring the stuff home. And she had this unbelievable warehouse filled with shit. And this is the dress from My Fair Lady. This is Audrey's, or this is Marilyn's from 7 Year Itch.
So that stuff always amazes me, that people who have access and then get it either for nothing and so this is an example I give to artists all the time about keeping 1 or 2 of everything in an archive of everything they've made for, a retrospective show, or in case one day it's worth a lot of money. Like when it's inexpensive, put it aside. And then I'm always telling artists, a lot of artists watch this show, is to trade with other artists, right? Because there's other people who want your work. And if you just trade, you end up with this collection of your contemporaries, and people ultimately can like retire on that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Access is key. If you have the access and you don't take advantage of it, that's on you. Didn't
Mark Hamill get like 1 of every figure? He made a deal where he got 1, so he's got a warehouse of like 1 of every Star Wars piece.
Everything that had his likeness. Yeah, he's got a ton of stuff. What was it was on some show. Maybe it was on that Golden show, but was it Karl Malone got everybody's jersey from the Dream Team from the Ellipse, and he
picked them all up in the locker room. He just took them. He just took them because they just threw them on the ground. He had the forethought. And he even in the show, he even says, he's like, "I realized that I'll be the only one with a complete set of everybody who played on this unbelievable team."
Wow.
Genius.
And he had them all on display. Idea. And then how much did he get for them?
He got like $10 million or something like that.
Wow. That's like, it just being at the right place at the right time, or just being sort of ahead of the game. Sometimes you just don't have access to this stuff, but there are people in Hollywood or wherever that they just save the shit that they worked on, and then something out of it becomes extra special. So
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So last thing, can you talk about how G.A.S started and what's going on?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, Greg Rivera of Mishka, who's, one of the best, smartest collectors I know. The guy's amazing. He's one of these guys. He's like, I use the term divvy. That's an English term that they give people. You can put them, like, send them out into the fields and they'll come back with like a lump of gold. Like they just can, somehow stuff is attracted to them. And it's almost magical. It's almost like a diviner. He has that power. It's a superpower. But anyway, so we talk about stuff all the time, and one day we started talking about cards, and I was like, this is when, during the pandemic, cards were going nuts, and the prices were going crazy for basketball cards and whatever. And we're just talking, and I'm like, there should be like a Steve Jobs rookie or an Elon rookie, like, why aren't there these cards? Like, why can't I go get an Elon Musk rookie card, or, and so we started talking about it. And then, one day we knew this guy, Phantom Cardboard, and he designs beautiful cards.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. And I have a huge collection of his work. And I said to him, I'm like, look, Jesse, we want to do this, this Elon Musk card. So we talked about it. He designed it. We printed it. And then we put it on Network, which is, it's like a one of these kind of website wholesale places, right?
It's like modern day QVC.
Like a modern day QVC. And I mean, we thought we might sell a dozen. I mean, honestly, we didn't know how many we were going to sell. And it turns out, like, we almost sold like 2,000 of them.
Wow.
And like, it was like, whoa, wait a second, really? And that's surprising. So then we were like, oh, let's try it again. Let's do something else. So like, I don't have the Elon here, but I have this. So the second card, this is when Bitcoin was going nuts. We're like, well, there needs to be a Satoshi rookie card, right? Like, there has to be one, and there isn't one. So like, we made this one. So this is the Satoshi Nakamoto. And this is actually officially called I Am Not Satoshi Nakamoto, because this was the guy his name is Satoshi Nakamoto, but he said, I'm not the Satoshi Nakamoto. So we made a card of him. And that sold really well. And then we made a Jeff Bezos card as the, so like, this card is cool because it's kind of reminiscent of a minor league card from the early 80s. So we used a picture of him from high school. He was a short order chef at McDonald's. So,
it's just he's so perfect, like, taking these designs from, like, borrowing from pop culture, card designs from like the 70s and 80s, and then doing like all of these tech people that all of the people at Network that were Network shoppers, would be interested. It was just a perfect confluence of like,
we were able, because we're nimble. I mean, literally it was, we ended up, Jesse ended up not wanting to do that. He kind of wanted to focus on his thing. So, we knew other designers. So we were able to, literally turn things on a dime when something was in the news. Immediately we'll make a card of it and get it out, So, I mean, that's something we still do. Like, this is like the, I don't know if you've seen this. This is the Trump gold sneakers.
Right.
So we did like a sneakerhead card.
I think you guys were the first, and I have one actually. You guys were the first collectible of the mugshot that I saw. I remember you guys had the Trump mugshot card.
Yeah, we had that. That
seconds of the mugshot being released. That card was.
We had it. We were ready, waiting to go, because we knew we wanted to be the first one out there, and that's we've done. And and again, people have made mugshot cards as well. But we were the first ones.
Yeah, you guys were right there on that. Yeah.
And now basically we still do that a little bit. We still kind of, if something really interesting pops up, and we still do a little bit with the tech stuff, but mostly now we're working with a lot of bands and music acts. And what we do is we make cards for that specific event. So like if you go to see Dave Matthews Band, that card is available that night at the venue, and that's it. So it's on the merch table, and because of that, they're very collectible, and people who miss the show will want to buy it, and so that's kind of what we're doing. And we're working with a ton of bands. We're working with Bruce Springsteen, and so there's a ton of people who want that. So that's kind of what we're doing right now.
One thing I love about what you guys do though is you're also like, you're willing to go deep cut pop culture on stuff. Mm-hmm. So at DCon, when I walked over to the booth, you had, and it's one of my favorite cards in my collection, Poochie from Wiener Circle, who, I don't know if you guys aren't familiar with her, go look up videos of Poochie, because there's a hot dog stand called Wiener Circle in Chicago. And she just violently, verbally abuses every single person that walks through the door. It's become like, it's more than memeable. It's become like a kind of a phenomenon. And sure as shit, I walk by the gas table and there is a Poochie card with like all the classic, Wiener Circle hot dogs. It's that kind of stuff that no one else is making. That I collect non-sports cards. I didn't collect any cards until Project 70 sucked me back in during the pandemic, and then being friends with Dov doesn't help. And so now I have rather extensive collection of, but I like the bizarre cards. I like sort of the weirdo ones, the outsider ones. And seeing you guys do that right alongside the Elon Musks and the, Wu-Tang, and it's just so cool that you're tapping into that deep of a pop culture.
I mean, that's what makes this interesting, right? You want to, everything can't be surface level. It's boring. Yes, everybody wants the LeBron James card, or, everybody wants the Kobe card. And yes, those things are awesome, but there's room.
But they're also unattainable.
Right.
A lot of that stuff is,
I mean, that stuff is like, rookie cards for prospects now who are, they're like $1 million. Like, it's just, this one of a kind, people are just trying to figure out what is the best rookie card of, and this is like a one of this, or a patch card signed with a piece of this. And it's like, they're trying to find like the best thing ever. And it's just sort of refreshing that you're always like collecting like the minor league cards, or collecting the photographic postcards that were released at a minor league stadiums, and like just always diving deeper and going beyond just crazy.
I think it's just, look, as I said, ADHD, I now I get, it's like, I can't not do that, I just can't. I get bored so quickly if it's not the next thing, over and over and over again.
Forget LeBron, get in on Poochie.
Yeah, seriously. We had Poochie live at the National Sports Card Convention. We had Poochie in-house. She was there signing cards at the booth and abusing people.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I got a signed one at DCon, but I didn't get abused. So it's
apparently, if you pay a certain amount of money, there's something called a milkshake. I'm not going to go into exactly what it is, but there is something called a milkshake, which also is a possibility.
All right, say what it is, and Chris will edit it out.
I mean,
well, apparently, I think it's like $20. I think it's $20. She'll pull her tits right out and put your face in them, and like a what do they call it?
Motorboat.
Bronsky.
For $20.
It's called a milkshake. So I don't think I remember a guy asked at the booth, he's like, "Can I get a milkshake?"
Not on the floor of the National, man.
Yeah, at the floor of the National, he asked for a milkshake.
And did she do it?
No, she didn't do it.
Wow. I think you can leave all this in.
Yeah.
Now it's time for What Did Dov Buy? Hey, dude, what'd you get?
I did pick up a few things since the last show. And a lot of you know, like I'm a big fan of double cast resin. We did a lot of work with Scott Wilkowski back in the day. Our very own Scott Cherry here has done some amazing double casts recently. But Scott and I were at Monster Palooza, and Dingy Dave was there, and he had a booth, and I picked this thing up.
Whoa!
Now this just looks like a clear resin piece, correct? Like you can just see through it. This, right?
Yeah.
But what this is a double clear resin double pour.
What?
So imagine
you're in clear.
Casting the inside is clear, and then taking that, putting it inside, and doing another layer of clear. Right. So this clear inside of clear. So
that's great.
So stop ruining it, Ian. So right. Okay. So then you take a black light.
Whoa! Holy shit!
Wow.
And then you can see it.
Oh my god. Dude, the outside sculpt and coloring was enough to get me excited about that, but that's fucking bananas.
When he first showed me that, it was one of those things where I'm like, I hate him. I hate him for figuring that out.
Wow.
And like the first thing I think, I'm like, how can I steal that?
Well, you do double cast resin all the time, so you can.
So genius.
Okay, and then it even comes with his own like little monogrammed black light.
Oh my god, that's so
that
cool.
He put a little resin sculpt on it. So Dingy Dave, like A+. You know me, I am a carded resin dude. I don't normally buy just like standalone larger resin pieces, and dude sold me like.
Put that next to Epoch's Portal for Toy of the Year nominations.
It's like a magic trick.
Can you see this? Am I showing it well enough?
I mean, it might look better like with the lights off and everything, but
you can see it. It's like a phantom. I mean, it's Madame Leota, dude. Like this.
It's like a It's almost like a hologram.
Yeah.
Even. It's so
insane.
Cool. Dingy Dave is the man. I love that guy.
Simeon's making notes of what to start reading now. It's
Dingy Dave.
No, Dingy Dave is amazing.
So I've shown a bunch of the Space Mars figures in the past. I sort of stopped because I just keep getting them, and I figured it wasn't that interesting. But this one was just so next level that. Did you see this one? Are you already laughing? So it should have prepared it. But this is Luke in the back to tank.
Oh my god.
A Japanese Safubi, and he's, all the other ones are in a bag and header card, but he shipped it in this.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
So, just sort of next level, super creative. This one is a special one for Simeon. I remember that I found the Shaq Pog set. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Every commercial that Shaq is or every company he's chilled for
as a Pog. Did you end up getting one of those?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you order? You ordered one, Janky. Didn't you order one too?
I wanted one. They were sold out by the time you gave it to me. Yeah.
So I get So they made a Pog set. Someone, I don't know who, made a Pog set of Shaq. But each Pog was one of it was like the General and Duracell or whatever. All the
Pizza. I didn't see those. That's awesome.
Papa Gino's or whatever.
Papa John's,
Papa John's, yeah.
So then I got an Obvious Plant email, must have been 2 weeks ago, and Obvious Plant, this fucking genius, made the Shaquille O'Neal pregnancy test.
That guy.
Fucking genius, dude.
What's it say? Include 2 free Shaq what?
Results in 2 minutes, over 90% accurate, includes 2 free Shaq stickers. He's got it says slam dump and pregnant, right there on his arm. And inside, I'm assuming this is an actual pregnancy test. I don't know. On the back, it says it's a slam dunk. Hello, I'm basketball player Shaquille O'Neal. As a ball man, I know how important it is to be accurate on the court and in life. That's why I endorse this pregnancy test. Our team has specially formulated an easy-to-use test that is over 90% accurate, so you can be sure the results, whether you like them or not. Now, that's what I call nothing but net. And it's just...
That's awesome.
Oh, home run. Run.
And what I can't believe, I don't remember how much it was. Was it $20 or it's like, I just bought an empty box, not an empty box, but like for $20 because based on the concept. But there's also the directions, which are fantastic. Step 1, prepare urine. If necessary, stimulate bladder by drinking a beverage, thinking of wet, jumping up and down on a bounce house. Pee on a stick or into a clean container. The containers that are approved.
The shoe.
Soak your Shaquille O'Neal pregnancy test in urine for 20 seconds. Suggestions to pass the time include praying for the result you want, pacing nervously, swearing, playing with the included 2 free Shaq stickers. And then there's like this, like the little key there, like foul ball, error. I don't know. Genius. Okay,
that's good.
He's the best. He just made a Garfield mech warrior.
Dude, yeah, which was awesome.
He sent me a photo of that, and I was like, "This is wow,
amazing." Yeah, it was fantastic. He's the best.
All right, so this I got in the mail from Nekosatsu, and she's outdone herself. I mean, first of all, there's this crazy box, which I mean.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
All her orders are shipping in this custom box, like insane.
Cool.
But I got this little guy right here. It is called a Mud Belly Battle Bellies vinyl figure. So it's from Garden State Kaiju. Vinyl casting was Mile High Safubi, and it says paint, resin, and header card by Nekosatsu. So basically, I believe I have another one of these in a sort of a regular colorway.
Yeah,
right. And this is sort of her take on it in collaboration.
That's awesome.
This little dewback. I hope these collaborations keep going.
So cool.
So really amazing vinyl figure. All right.
I picked up something of interest, Dov, actually.
Yeah.
Not a toy, but for things we talked about. This tome here, which is the making of the original Dungeons and Dragons book.
Oh man.
It is all of the original notes, drawings, handwritten, like computer, like it's the whole history of D&D. And they've included every version of it, starting from the handwritten, like turning little metal warriors into a tabletop game, through the box sets, the magazine, like articles. It's everything. This book is like 12 pounds.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Insane.
I have the art one.
It's the Dungeons and Dragons art book is like, I mean, there's a few books that have come out in the past decade that have just sort of, I've lost my mind over.
This has all of those crazy, like the original illustrations. Yeah. And then it's kind of nuts when you go back and you see the very first stuff, because it's all these like, it
was done by like a high school kid.
Yeah, I mean,
like Gary Gygax.
Look like the game looked like this, but then the drawings, which we're so familiar with, like, crazy artwork of D&D, and the drawings are just these very amateurish. And it's kind of like super wonderful. I don't know. I'm just really taken by this book.
I can't wait to get my hands on that.
Yeah, I will never sit down and read it, but just the art and the layout and just seeing the origin of the game and where it came from was.
See, I would read that. I read the art book.
The art book's amazing, but I mean,
art book's amazing. Yeah,
this is like
I read the Atari art book too.
Dude, the Atari art book is sort of like, if you're naming like all the books in the past 10 years that have just like sort of encapsulated my childhood, like when I showed up that G.I. Joe book, there's that one. the Atari one, the Dungeons and Dragons, and then it's one that that Simeon will appreciate is someone put out a book of all of Dick Perez's Donruss Diamond Kings.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And Dick Perez is not like the best artist. If he's still alive, I'm sorry if some of your relatives are watching this, but I have a nostalgia for these images. And they reprinted, so every Donner set since started in 1982, right? The first 25, 26 cards of the set was it one from every team? What did they do?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was one from every team.
No, but the first couple dozen cards of the set were these drawings of these baseball players, and it kept going until, I don't know, for 20 years or so, right? And then for some reason, whatever, Donruss imploded and got sold, or what, whatever. And then all of his Hall of Fame, and I don't have very many books about baseball or whatever, but this book was just like, and these books just keep coming out. Like I'm just of the age, and the people who are making books are of the age, and they're just making shit that I sort of lose my mind.
Yeah.
So
Can I give you a quick trivia question since you mentioned Donruss? Where do you think that name comes from?
Wasn't it like Don and Russ, like two guys?
Yeah, Don and Russ.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's trivia. Come on, dude. That's not trivia. That's bullshit.
Like, what is Arby's named after?
R and B. No.
No, but there was a guy named Don, and there was a guy named Russ, and they started this card company in the 70s, or maybe in the late 60s. I mean, that's impressive. They sold it. They sold it a long time ago, but they kept the name is so iconic. Donruss.
Yeah, it totally is.
But now I need to know, Ian, like, what's Arby's from?
I mean, I think it was two guys, or like your guy's name was some R something, B something, but most people think it's roast beef.
Yeah, it was their initials. There's the food that made America, and there's a whole episode about Arby's. It's fascinating.
The answer is we're not sure.
Arby's.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then
Ian, come on, dude! You can't like do trivia and not know the fucking answer. What's the bullshit?
That's not my wheelhouse.
All right.
I asked the question. Anyway, I don't know the answer.
Simeon, thanks so much for being on the show and taking the time. I know it's 3 hours later for you.
Fascinating.
A great
fantastic episode.
Yeah, seriously.
So can you just tell everybody where they can find you online?
Well, I have an Instagram account. It's just my name, Simeon Lipman. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I kind of keep a low profile other than that.
Well, everybody will be on to your collecting shit. You got to stay low so they don't see what you're buying.
Yeah, no, I post all that stuff. If you're interested in this stuff,
his feed is fascinating. It just if you're a collector, and I know that like sometimes we do shows like this where they sort of get away from our core like resin audience, but this has obviously Sucklord history is part of Simeon's history here. That being said, we will get back to sort of normal programming. Next episode will be Sadat from King Spider.
Sweet.
Good.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at DKE Toys. Subscribe on YouTube at DKE Toys. If you're happy with us, leave a Google review for DKE Toys. If you need to reach me, dketoys@gmail.com. If you need to reach Janky, dketoystv@gmail.com. If you have comments, questions about the show or anything else. So where do we find you guys?
Barbarianrage.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I'm rebranding Barbarian Rage, so come see what it's all about.
Yeah, it looks great, Scott.
It does.
What's that?
It looks great.
It looks pro, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Go to barbarianrage.com. Sign up for my newsletter. It comes out like once a week. It's got a little bit of toy news, and you get first dibs on all things Barbarian Rage. And I just started a mailing list. I'm going to start sending out like free stickers and postcards and stuff like that. So give me your address, and I'm sending out fun stuff.
Oh, you can be pen pals with Scott Cherry.
There you go. Please.
I just sent him hate mail.
But
That's welcome too.
He needed a quote. What was the quote we came up with? It was like, I normally don't read mail, but I always read Scott Cherry's. What was it? Do you remember what it was? Oh, never mind. It's going to be right here. Yeah. Anyway, so
there you go.
Nice.
All right, guys.
The newsletter,
Janky, where do they find you?
You can find me at Janky Toys on Instagram, and I mentioned it in the last episode, but I'm getting very close to launching my first Whatnot show. Speaking of worthless trading cards that you will not be able to grade, the very first Jank cards, and Jankymon will be part of.
Jankymon.
They're so dumb. I love them. If you like Bloodsport and Pokemon, stick around because it's happening.
Wow.
Yeah, so in the next couple of weeks that's going to happen, but keep an eye on Janky Toys because there will be actual updates coming soon.
Sounds wonderful. Cool. All right, thank you guys. Thank you again, Simeon. We'll talk to everybody soon. Bye.
What do you say?
Stay fresh, cheese pie.